What's up? Drew Paul Bell here. Today, what I want to talk about is how to hack a jury presentation in architecture school. I recently graduated from architecture school, and I remember that I had an opportunity about 3 or 4 times to sit on a jury as a 4th or 5th year student for first and second year presentations. So I kind of got this experience from the other side of the presentation boards. And I got to sit back and watch people present their projects, and I was always paying attention to see like what was I looking for, what was I excited by, what went over well, what didn't. And the point of this video is going to be like how to do well in those presentations. This might or might not make you a better designer. It might or might not make you a better architect. In fact, it probably wouldn't. But if what you're looking for is success in this one thing, then I think this advice would help out and give an interesting perspective on this. So anyway, I remember where I was coming from was I was a 5th year student going back and sitting on a first year review. This was back like about a month before I graduated, and I went there and I sat down, and where I was coming from was I was like this 5th year student coming in to watch first years present, and I actually felt nervous a little bit because I thought, like, am I going to be able to bring it? Am I going to be able to really give good advice to these kids? And you know, I say kids, some of them are older than me. That also made me a little bit nervous. Like, this person who probably has more life experience than me has just not been in architecture school as long as I have, and that's the only difference. Like, how am I going to sit here and critique his work? How am I going to give him any value? And I was nervous about that. What I was actually looking for in this whole presentation, like if I'm just being brutally honest and completely forward and upfront, is I was looking for an opportunity to say something that would make me look really smart. And that's just me being real. Like, I was a little nervous that I wasn't going to be able to provide enough value to these people, or that I might be even talking to a student who might be more successful than I would be in school, right? Because I'm in 5th year, they're only in 1st year, they have so much potential, so much time. What if one of them is actually better than me? I'm supposed to be the 5th year who knows everything, right? Like, I was nervous about that. And I think that when you're dealing with juries who are professionals coming back, I think you see a similar situation. In another instance, I was on a jury next to a guy who, he opened with, when he introduced himself, he said, I went over to the dark side. I'm a developer now. Think about that guy. Think about that person who comes in as somebody who's a developer, and they might be telling themselves the story that their designs aren't as good as the high design or whatever, and they have certain insecurities too. They're going to be nervous about things. So ultimately, what everyone is looking for in juries, I shouldn't say everyone, but what some people are probably looking for is an opportunity to prove that they're smart. Because most human beings are egocentric to a point, and they want to make sure that, like, they look good. So how do you make this happen? For me, in the one that I was on a month before I graduated, I remember, like, we were going through the reviews. Some of them were pretty good. I felt like I was given good comments. And then near the end, this girl had a presentation, and I felt like there was kind of like the way that she was working with something, there was kind of a residue left over from an earlier design move. Like, she did this one thing, she thought it would be cool, and then it was kind of still in there later on. I asked about it, and I didn't really think it was necessary given how exciting her project had become. And it gave me the opportunity to say that, like, you know, you're looking at it like this, you're trying to fit this thing to this thing, when in reality, you need to fit that thing to the other thing. Reverse it up. And I felt so smart in explaining that, and like, I'm gonna try not to be egotistic enough to actually explain the whole thing, but it was ultimately, like, that's what I got. So how do you maneuver this as somebody presenting? I would never recommend that you have some sort of glaring mistake, or that you intentionally put some problem in your project for someone else to find, because I think that would backfire on you really, really bad. I just don't see how that would work. I think that some things like that might happen organically, and if it comes up, roll with it. Make sure you be positive when jurors give you advice, and kind of critique you on things. But so that's one way, right? You could have a flaw in your project, but I don't really think that's an actionable thing to do. Another way is based off the idea that there are ideas we think of and ideas we think with. I've talked about this a little bit before in other videos, but I think that if your project is what I like to think of as being like involving a language, you involve like the language of like Lincoln Logs or stacked wood in a way, or a certain kind of assembly. What happens is people will look at that. They can look at that project, and as jurors, they can think of all these other things. So you give them an idea to think with. You give them a set of rules, kind of a process, and then they can look at that thing and take it forward and put their own spin on it in their own minds and think, oh, that's genius. Like, I came up with, now they've thought of awesome things. You've made them feel smart, and yeah, assuming like the project is actually pretty beautiful as well, you're probably setting yourself up to have a great review. I've had a project before where it kind of had this language to it, and it became about this assembly method and the way that these sticks were stacked up. Now, I can even take this right now and like work on something like a bench based off of the same method, and in fact I'm kind of trying to do that on the side, and you know, it's the kind of thing where you can think with it and think of other ideas. If you can get your jurors to say the following phrase, then you're golden. They'll say something like, I could see this becoming like a series of studies or furniture pieces that even maybe get sold as like a kit of parts, like an Ikea. If you can get them to say that, you are golden. You are done. You've won. Like, that's it. They and I came up with this idea, like I said, a month before I graduated. Then at the end of every semester, we take like the best projects from each class, and then bring them together for like the final competition within that year. Fifth year thesis competition comes around, and the girl who won, literally, they said that. They literally said, I can see this becoming like a series of furniture, and maybe it's becoming like a kit of parts that goes into Ikea. And just goes to show you, when you give the jurors something to think with, then it really makes them feel like they're a part of the project. Also, it kind of makes for a pretty rich project if you can take this thing and it's not just this one thing, but it can like become a series of other things. It can become like a system. Then that has a lot of value to it too. That's also a pretty cool project. Another cool thing is that if you have like this, I forgot what I was gonna say, but so you find the value in giving them ideas to think with, and ultimately it's a great way to have a great review. Now again, this might or might not make you a great architect. Perhaps being a great architect requires something more complex than that, but if all you're looking to do is hack the presentation kind of thing, then I think this would really help you. So anyway, I hope this helps, and I'll talk to you next time.